Welcome to Cryptic Curiosity. We're your hosts,
Amber.
and JoJo. And today we are going to be discussing two cryptids from the states that we live in. I'm going to be discussing the wild man from Tennessee, and Amber is going to be discussing the dogman in Michigan. Have you ever heard of the wild man before?
No, I didn't know that there was a cryptid in Tennessee.
I did not either until I looked it up. And the first encounter of the wild man is said to be in the 1800s in McNairy County, Tennessee.
How far is that from where you're located?
That's what I was trying to think. McNairy County, I don't know where that is.
Where is Selmer, Tennessee in relation to you?
Where is what?
Selmer, Tennessee. Because that's
Selmer. I don't know. Because I'm up in the eastern part, so.
a very small town. Population's only about 7,000.
Oh, wow.
Very small county.
Now, they don't have a whole lot of information about the wild man. The only encounter that I could find online with the wild man is in the 2000s in Elizabethton, Tennessee. And Elizabethton is very close to where I am now, like 20 minutes away, if that. Paranormal investigator and his cousin Rob Phillips and Randy Sparks went hiking at the Watauga Cliffs. I don't know where that is. I've never heard of that place before, but I know the area in Elizabethton, and it's like really woodsy and creepy. Like, we went to a waterfall that was like back in the woods in Elizabethton, and that was creepy. So I can imagine that it's mountainous woods in that area that they were probably at. And they said they heard the sound of a twig snapping, followed by a horrible scream, which would be my cue to leave. Personally, I would be like, okay, time to go. They took off running, and they hid behind a tree, which, to me, I don't know if that's a good idea, because probably climb trees.
Yeah, you would think something that lives in the woods would be adept at everything in the woods.
Yeah.
So they run really fast. They know the terrain really well. They can climb trees, like a bear can.
Yeah,
Or
that's what I think. Like, I think of like Bigfoot or whatever, and how they say Bigfoot messes with trees and stuff. So I don't think I'd want to run to a tree, but that's allegedly what happened. Philip said, quote, he spotted the wild man clinging to a tree, and then he heard his cousin flee, and he followed behind him. And he was actually on the show Destination America, Monsters and Mysteries in America. I never actually seen that episode, but that was the story he told on that show. And that is literally the only actual, encounter that I can find reported.
what do they think the wild man is? I mean, is he like a Bigfoot that, is just like a missing link type creature, or do they think he has a backstory or anything?
Their appearance, which is close to Bigfoot, well, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, those are the same to me, but more human-like. So this, I guess, is more human than, say, Bigfoot would be, in that they're really tall, 7 to 9 feet tall, with a muscular build, and then the long arms and the clawed hands, with gray or ginger colored hair and small red eyes. But they did say that they have a really foul odor. It says that similar to the skunk monkey, which I've never heard of. Is there really such a thing as a skunk monkey?
Florida has a skunk. That's what they're.
Is that what? Okay.
So maybe that's what they're talking about, is the skunk ape, and I don't know a whole lot about that. We might want to talk about that one later on, but
yeah, I don't
that's
know.
about the only thing I know is that it's supposed to be really stinky.
Yeah, okay. Well, they said this has a foul odor. Lord help me. Odor. And of course, their habitat is in the forests and woods, but they were believed to be captured by a circus showman to put him on display. But then the creature's strength enabled it to escape, essentially.
So the legend, we'll just call it that, is that they captured one, put it on display via circus route, and then it got away, and really only one dude has seen it since.
I'm sure there has to be more, because I just couldn't find like actual encounters. It does say characteristics and behavior. They're said to have a loud cry. I would imagine the same cry maybe Bigfoot would have. It just says like a loud cry. And they were believed to target dogs and women.
Bitches.
Yeah, which is creepy, because dogs, I don't understand why they would target dogs at all, but that's
Maybe because they're aggressive.
that's what the article said. But it also did say that they are aggressive and they fight for their territory with the Sasquatch.
Now, I've only been to Tennessee once with you, and we did experience, a whole lot of area that nobody lived in, that it is possible for there to be a creature or something that nobody's seen before living, and nobody would run into it because they're in inhabitable places. But what do you think? Are you going to be worried about going out your back door at night and let the dog out, or?
Well, now, I would tell you I would be if I lived in the woods. But because I don't have, like, I'm in the middle of town, so I don't have to worry about that. But I could go either way with that, because I've been into the woods here, and they're scary, and they could hide. They're big. I mean, the Cherokee National Forest is huge, and yeah, they could probably hide really easy. They're definitely big enough for something of that size to hide in. When I was in them, I was quite freaked out. Well, because there are bears in these woods around here, and I never see them. I've been in the woods around here a lot, and there are bears. So if a big ass bear could hide, then I think something like this could hide as well.
Now, the Dogman's a little bit different. It's actually a really old legend that goes back to at least the 1700s. Native Americans. The Ottawa Indians actually referred to it as the Wendigo, and nobody knows what a Wendigo is. It's a supernatural.
A Wendigo?
A Wendigo, maybe saying.
Yeah, I think you say it Wendigo. At least that's how I've been saying it. Yeah.
Well, there's two options. It says Wendigo, spelled Windigo, or Wendigo, Wendigo. So I don't know if there's two ways to say that, but either way, what it is it's a supernatural being that belongs to spiritual traditions of the Algonquin and First Nations, or First Nations in Northern America. So we're talking about Native Americans that live Michigan, Canada, Montana. No,
I remember researching the Wendigo before.
But various indigenous traditions consider them dangerous because of their thirst for blood or the ability to infect otherwise healthy people or communities with evil. French explorers called the Dogman Loup Garou, which means werewolf, and the Dogman has been reported sightings over 500 times. So they have more reported sightings than Bigfoot.
Wow.
And yeah. And also the Dogman has been reported sighted prior to Bigfoot sightings. So the Dogman in Michigan is a very old legend. The first reported sighting of the Dogman in Michigan was in 1887 in Wexford County. Wexford County in Michigan is in the northern lower part. So people from Michigan, we use our hands as a map. So if you hold out your left hand, it would be from in Michigan, like right around where your pinky starts up, and in the northern areas also there's been Dogman reported sightings. But the first one was reported by two lumberjacks. And that area in the 1800s, there's pretty much two professions up there. You were either a logger or you were a trapper. Because it was either they're selling wood or they're selling fruit. So logmen would be in the woods to pick trees to take them down. And supposedly they seen it looked like a big wolf in the woods. And then when they went to walk up to it, it stood up on two hind legs and they took off. And they didn't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it either if I seen something.
Yeah, right? I'd be like, I saw nothing.
Stand up.
That didn't happen.
But they kind of almost discounted a little bit, saying, if you're a logger, you're probably drinking heavily and stuff like that, because that's a hard, tough job. But, yeah, that was the first sighting. There was, in that area, there was lots of, where other people would say that they were in the woods, that they'd seen it, but it wasn't another documented one until about the 60s, but it was the same thing. This guy said that he was out hunting and came across a group of wolves eating in the forest, and he fired a shot off, and the other ones ran away, and one of them stood up on the back two legs and looked at him, and was well over 8 feet tall, described as having the head of a wolf with the big fur around his neck, and then the body of a man. There's not a whole lot of real credible evidence for the Dogman. I mean, most of the pictures you find kind of look fake. They really do. It's hard to say, yep, that's it, and something that I believe it was. But because there's so many reported sightings of this thing, that in that area, pretty much it's something that they actually, how do you say it, have town protocol. My mom told me when she spent a lot of time up in that area growing up camping, we had a family cabin in Alpena, which is on the other side of where Wexford County is. So it would be, instead of on the west side of the state, it would be on the east side of the state, but still northern lower Michigan. She told me that her great-grandpa told her that she wasn't allowed outside past midnight because there was a werewolf in the woods. And she always thought that it was just him, trying to keep her and my cousin from running in the woods at night, because there is bears up north, right, and stuff like that. She just thought he was trying to be, trying to scare her. And I started talking to her about this, and she was like, no, she's like, there might be something to that. She's like, all the adults up there were like, no, if it's after midnight, you don't go in the woods. You stay in the house. You don't have no business out there. And it was all because of a werewolf, supposedly, that was stalking the woods. She'd never seen it or anything like that, but she did tell me a story about the response my group had one night. As we had a very rustic cabin. There may have been running water, but there wasn't indoor plumbing. You had to go outside to go to the bathroom. There may or may not have been electricity. I don't remember. But she said my group forgot to go use the outhouse, and it was nighttime. And her and my uncle went outside just to, sit on the porch or whatever. And he told them to get back in the house right now. She said that he heard something on the other side of the boat that was docked. And her and my cousin could see from the cabin window what was actually on the other side of the boat. It was a skunk. But his reaction to the way he was acting, she thought that maybe he thought it was a bear on the other side. But she was like, after hearing this, maybe because he told her that there was a werewolf in the woods, maybe that's what he thought was on the other side of that boat, and why he reacted so terrified and ran the way he did. But she was like, he wasn't somebody that was easily spooked, so he had to have believed that there was something like that out there to have that reaction. which I thought was kind of interesting. But yeah, that just wasn't really an encounter story or anything like that, but the legend affects the way people actually conduct themselves in that area. You know, they don't try to be outside and in the woods to even see if this thing is real.
Right.
Um,
I wouldn't either. Actually, that ain't true, because now I would probably be like, okay, but somebody's got to come with me. Let's grab a camera and see if we can find them.
Well, especially because it was so hard to. I mean, there's lots of sightings. Like I said, you can go online, and there's actually an entire website dedicated to Dogman encounters, not just in Michigan, but everywhere. But there was a lot of Michigan on there, and it's seen enough. I mean, I not having the physical proof is one thing, but if so many people are seeing it, it's hard to say that it's not happening. And it's what I found even funnier is that it seems to be in one area, down northern, lower Michigan, which if you're not from Michigan, that's going to sound like a funny description, but trust me. And there's some like around the thumb area. There's some recordings around there.
Around where?
The thumb area.
Oh.
Like there's an encounter that I read. It was a lady that lived in Sarnia. And Sarnia is right across the river from Port Huron, an area that I'm familiar with. My in-laws are from that area, so it's, you know, a place that I know I've seen. You know, I've looked across the river and seen Sarnia. She said that she was talking to one of her police officer friends, and there was lots of reports of animals being like just completely shredded, and not like a bear, because you know a bear would attack it and drag it off to eat it.
Yeah.
This was just a straight up attack. There's also a report. There was one I read in Washtenaw County, which is where Ann Arbor is.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a populated area. I mean, you go from Ann Arbor into Ypsilanti into Detroit. So
Yeah,
that's a pretty.
not. I'm sure there might be some woods in there. I don't know.
Well, you know how Michigan is. Michigan
Yeah.
is set up a town, and then you drive out from the town, it gets more and more full, and then you go back into another town. And Michigan is like that repeatedly. That's just the way it is. So it's possible that it could get to a populated area through the woods, no problem, through fields. But there's actually even a song about the Dogman of Michigan. It was recorded in 1987 by disc jockey Stephen Cook from Traverse City, Michigan. The song is titled The Legend, which he initially played it and wrote it as an April Fool's joke just because of the local legend in the area, not even that it's real. But there was such a response to it, like people calling the radio station like, yeah, I seen it, dude. Yeah, that thing's real. He's a skeptic about it. He doesn't really believe that the Michigan Dogman is real, even though he wrote a song about it. He said, I'm tremendously skeptical because I've sort of seen the way folklore becomes built from creation of this song, is what from the song to what it's turned into now. But I do really believe that people who think they saw something really did see something. He also said that he once interviewed an elder from Ottawa Chippewa tribe in the 80s who believed that dogmen were members of a shape-shifting skinwalker tribe who became stuck somewhere between their human and animal form. That I found really relevant because of some of the personal experiences I found where the dogman was almost cocky. Like, aha. There was one personal experience I read where the guy seen it twice, actually, in his life. The first time he was a child, and he was outside and happened to see it and ran into the house really quick to get away from it. Second time, which was in another area, still like in the Grand Rapids area, but like in a more rural part of the Grand Rapids area. It was at night and he heard something on the roof. And he said his mind instantly flashed back to being a kid and seeing that thing in the woods. So he grabbed his gun and he ran outside. And when he pointed the gun at the creature he seen, which was the same creature he seen as a child, that he almost psychically heard something say to him, I wouldn't do that. And when he lowered the gun, the creature smiled kind of cockily and walked into the woods. So if that's not a human response to, aha, I just intimidated you out of doing what I didn't want you to do, it makes sense that there is at least some human character.
That is so fucking creepy.
Yeah, that gave me chills when I read that. This one also gave me chills just because I do live in a 1970s trailer. So what this lady is describing is my house. So I know exactly the layout is the kitchen, the living room, there's a small bedroom, and a bathroom. Directly across from the bathroom is a back door, and then the master bedroom is in the back. So what the lady said is that she never saw it, but in 1975 she was newly married. She was about 20, 21, had a small baby, and her sister that was a teenager was staying the night. And they stayed up to like 11, 12, and they went to bed. She said just as they were starting to relax and get sleepy, out of nowhere there was a horrible loud howl / yell. She said it was so loud that it made her chest vibrate and her ears hurt. So if it was standing outside of that back door, it was only a few feet from that bedroom. Like,
right.
Not even 5 feet. She said they jumped out of bed, all shaken, looking at what the hell was that? And,
Time to move!
her husband was also a hunter. So he went and grabbed his gun. He opened the back door and yelled out, you better get the out of here or I'll blow your head off. She said they listened for a moment, and then she yelled for him to please shut the door. No, whatever's out there, we don't want you. Shut the door.
Right.
It said, needless to say, they stayed up all night afraid to go to sleep because she still can't get that howl out of her head of how loud, horrible is how she described it.
That would scare the piss out of me.
This one, there's a real encounter that I found that if this happened to me as a 5-year-old child, my parents would still have me in therapy because I probably still wouldn't be right. He said that he recently recalled an experience that when he was a child that he had blocked out. He grew up in the Cadillac area of Michigan, and at that time it wasn't as populated or industrious as it is now. And morning routine in their family was him and his mom would get up with his dad when he got up around for work and have breakfast with him and stuff like that. And one certain morning, same as he always did, he got up a little bit earlier than his parents did. He, walked out in the living room on the couch, was looking out the window, and he saw something rummaging in the back of his dad's truck. It was bent over the side of it. He was like, oh, Dad must have got up early too. And he banged on the window, to let his dad know that he was up. And it looked up, and it wasn't his dad. He said it was a creature that stood on 2 feet, that had the head of a dog. It was canine-like, but somehow human. He said that him and the creature locked eyes he said it seemed like an eternity. And he said, strangely enough, the eyes were not yellow, as everyone else seems to see, but they were a pale green in color. He said he finally, his body allowed him to react to what he was seeing, and he screamed and fell backwards. But as he was falling backwards, the creature lunged towards the window and hit the window.
Oh, gosh.
So because
he's a little guy?
5 years old, is what he said.
Holy crap.
He said he was so traumatized by the experience, but he repressed it, and he was looking, just randomly looking up things on the internet, and a Dogman story popped up and flooded back to him. And he said that now, it stands out in his mind. But yeah, I would not have been okay after. And I think that also lends a little bit into it playing with you. Because if this is an 8-foot, 300-400 pound creature and it hit a plate glass window, it could have came through it if it wanted to.
Right. It could probably get to you if it wanted you.
But it just hit the window. It didn't break through the window. So there seems to be some intelligence there. And purposely creating fear or, just fucking.
An asshole out there scaring the shit out of everybody.
But I think that lends back to the Native American explanation of it, that it's a tribe of people that got caught in between two realms. So it would, got stuck in its animal form. So, or in between it. So if it is human in nature, think about it. If you were stuck as this creature that you couldn't integrate back into society because you were too different, aren't you gonna fuck with people a little bit?
Yeah, I totally would.
I would.
I'm the asshole. Me. I would do it.
I'd be like, I'm gonna get this little kid. There was another one that I did find that I liked it because it was such a Michigan thing to do. You and I are both from Michigan. So you grew up here, you know exactly what bored Michiganders do on Saturday nights and shit like that. And a lot of it is you go pick up your friend that lives way out in BFE and you go see a movie and you drive around. They live way out in the middle of nowhere. There's lots of times where in Michigan you are out in the middle of nowhere on a 2-track road or a 1-track road.
Yeah.
Where it looks like nobody lives there. It's common. And that's exactly what was going on. The 3-4 kids were dropping their friend off who happened to live on one of them 1-track roads, way back in the woods. And they went and dropped him off, and when they were turning around to go home, they seen something in the road. And all they could really see was it was hunched over and its legs were very skinny, and it looked at them, and its eyes was glowing just as bright as the headlight. So they were scared, they're like 15, 16-year-old kids.
Were they in a car or were they walking?
They're in a car.
Okay.
So they, are panicking. What do we do? Do we turn the headlights off? But if we turn the headlights off, we're not going to know where it's going to go.
Right.
Or do we shut the car off and just let it walk away? Well, what if it comes and charges us? Or what if there's another one and we can't get the car started to get away fast enough? Or do we hit it? Keep driving, which would be what I would have to do. That would be what I would do, is just hit the gas. So what if we don't kill it and it sits on the hood and tries to get in? So, they were all debating what they should do. So they all just sat there and just tried not to see it, looking up, just to see, okay, it's still there, look down. So they didn't have to actually see what it was. Eventually it stood there long enough that they started watching and it stood up, and they seen that it got up on 2 legs and walked off like it was a human. But it didn't interact with them in any way. There was no shaking of the car. It didn't do anything to try to scare them. It was just minding its business and went back in the woods. What I found interesting is the dude was pretty much a lot like me, or you. We're both from Michigan, and I never heard of the Dogman in Michigan before.
I haven't either.
I seen a little blurb of it, of a story on YouTube, but it was just briefly mentioned and then moved on. What they keep describing the Dogman is a 7 to 8 foot creature that walks on 2 legs like people do, with a head like a dog, with either amber or blue eyes. And it's usually seen or sighted, Michigan is a big hunting state, big outdoor sports state. So most of the people that encounter it are either in the woods and just happen upon it, like these people, or they're hunting and they see it after they field dress out a deer, and they're removing the carcass and leave. Normally when you field dress, you leave the entrails there. Well, they seem to be coming to get the entrails. They get lots of reportings of possessive over the entrails, it's their food. I couldn't find any attacks on people. It was mainly animals like horses, cows, sheep, where it was just tore apart, not actually eaten.
Yeah.
So, there is something that they are eating from it, but most of the encounters it seems like they'd be over food. You just field dressed a deer, you're taking what you want, this is mine. And, they get aggressive stance at that time in those encounters, but I was very hard pressed to find that the Dogman in Michigan seems to be hunting people. It doesn't seem to be that way. It just seems to be like they're happening upon them.
Right, it's
And
minding its business in its own territory.
and Michigan is one of those places that we have lots and lots and lots of uninhabited forests. And we also
Yeah,
have,
it makes me think of, remember my family up north, like the area is BFE like no other in the woods. And then even by where my mom is, it's really wooded.
right, you can go within 10 minutes, even where I live, within, you pull out of my driveway of where I live and make a left, and you're in farm country. I don't get cell service very well where I live because I pretty much live in a tin can out in the woods. When you go up farther, like in northern Michigan, and when you get up in the UP,
Yeah, it's
there's
really foresty up there.
right, the UP could most definitely house something that nobody's ever seen before because there's lots of places you can't get to. Like in a car, you have to walk, or you
Right.
can't live there because it gets, or, because it's so secluded. And also, Michigan has the highest deposit of fresh water, so they don't need people. They can hunt their own food. There's plenty of Great Lakes are full of plenty of fresh water,
Right.
and
And
if
there's plenty of deer in Michigan.
plenty of fish, plenty of deer. There's plenty of farms that they can steal chickens or whatever. That it's absolutely plausible that there could be a whole family or generation of a creature
Yeah.
in the Michigan woods. That I mean, even look at something that's known like the Wolverine. Michigan is called the Wolverine state, but nobody has seen one in years and years and years. Now they're starting to see them more in populated areas again. Well, I never thought the Wolverine went anywhere. I just think he went and minded his own business somewhere in the UP where
Right,
people were.
exactly.
They're still, and that was another thing is the way that this thing sounds. It almost mimics a human scream, but it the way it's described is like a human scream with a growl. Which if I heard that, I'd probably pee my pants.
Yeah, same here. I'd be like, wait, what? What was that?
And if that's what that
Run.
lady heard outside of her door, that yeah, I wouldn't have been sleeping. I would have been in my bed holding my baby, being like, no.
Yeah, I would be terrified. I mean,
Like,
I can't imagine because it just makes me think of when we were sitting on my mom's deck and it was pitch black because in the country you can't see shit. It is so dark when it's dark outside. And remember, we heard something growling.
yeah, we were like, nope, out of here,
I still
in
to
the
this
house.
day wonder what the hell that was. And we ran in the house so fast. We were
I
like,
forgot
okay,
about
gotta
that.
go.
I do remember that. We're sitting
That
on the
scared
back
the
deck.
shit out of me. I'm like, what is that? Because it sounded like it was right next to us, and no dog ever came up on the deck. So
Yeah, the dogs were in the house.
I'm still confused as to what that was. So I believe some shit like that could be out there because
I think what we heard may have been a coyote or an actual wolf.
maybe,
Um,
but it's really scary that it was that close because it
Yeah.
just walked right up there like, hello.
as close as he was probably on those steps. That
Yeah, it
on
was.
the
It had to have been like on the deck. Like it was so loud.
we weren't fucking around to find out though.
No, we ran right in. We're like, oh, okay, gotta go.
Time to go.
Bye-bye. See you later.
But yeah, I think that most definitely that if I got a chance to, to safely go and just camp and maybe some BLM land up there, drive out in the middle of nowhere, stealth camp a little bit, just and have something recording, I most definitely would. But like you said, I ain't going by myself, but I kind of think that there's some credibility to Dogman, not for the Dogman of Michigan, not so much in evidence, but I'm a big proponent that you can't prove a personal experience, but you can't disprove 500 of them.
Yeah, that's true. That's a lot of people. And like for
And
the wild man, only a couple people have come forward, but the other people, they're not named. Like it says women have come forward to say that they had attempted to snatch them up. The men, many groups of men had went out to hunt it, to find it, and either never found it or something bad happened. Literally all it says. Like people don't go into detail about any of it.
These people, I mean, they give their name, they give where they live. I was watching, it was Monster Hunter has a little clip on the Dogman of Michigan, and they had people that said they encountered the Dogman of Michigan, and they gave them all polygraph tests. Now I know polygraph tests can be faked, and other people in court, but not one of these people showed any amount of deception in their story when they were telling it. So these people believe that they've seen what they've seen.
Yeah, they've seen something either way.
I did find there is, and this is for all Dogman sightings, no matter where you live, but it's called the North American Dogman Project. You can go to the NorthAmericanDogmanProject.com. These people seem pretty legit. I mean, their evidence pictures are a little bit more credible than what's floating around the internet, but if I had something this good, I would copyright it too, so we can't share them, but I most definitely would direct you to their page so you can see it yourself. Also, you have any Dogman encounter stories, they want to know about it. Because what they're doing is they're going out there to try to find proof that they exist. It's founded by 2 veterans. One of them was born and raised in Michigan. The other one is from the state of Ohio, so that's also another state that has a lot of Dogman reported sightings. But they're doing legit research. I mean, they're going out and they're training people to be safe to find evidence. And they break it down to where the most sightings are, and it does seem to be that there are more sightings in the Midwest than anywhere else. Also, they break it down to reported times. What's the most likely time you're going to see the Dogman? Who sees them more? Is it military and police, or is it civilians? According to their data, it's civilians that see the have Dogman sightings the most. But want more information? It was a pretty good resource, and started opening my eyes a little bit. And maybe these creatures do exist. Maybe they are out there. We have just enough unlived in space that they can still exist with not interacting with people too much.
I think it's very possible. Now with the wild man, I don't know about that, only because they say that it's unlikely that it has lived almost 150 years in the Tennessee mountains. They're saying that they don't know if the creature exists anymore, or if it's not, the wild man, if it's something else. And then like a couple people have said that they thought they seen something, like out in the woods, but I guess it's fast, so I guess it has some speed.
And the Dogman seems that he'll stand up like you dead in your eye and be like, "What do you want?"
This one seems to like run, like that's all I could find.
There's a few like artist renderings of what they seen online. Like I said, the photographs of the dog, they look fake. I'm not even gonna make any pretenses there. They look fake. I don't buy it based on...
that one just looks like a dog, like an actual dog.
Right.
Well, actually, a dog and a bear. It kind of looks like a mix between a dog and a bear.
But the sightings, I mean, people are passing they seen something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Something's out there.
They seen something that they could not explain that looks like a human and a dog mixed. And Michigan has, I think it's because we are very steeped in Native American culture as well. And most of our towns are Native American names, that there's still a really heavy Native American presence in Michigan. I think maybe a lot of the legends and energy that gets put or that stays in this state allows for that. I could completely see Native Americans getting tired of white people and conjuring up this paranormal tribe that can defend their land or scare off white people enough out of
Right.
area. And Michigan is still, I mean, we have our Detroit and our Grand Rapids and our Lansings and stuff like that. We have our big cities. But Michigan, for the most part, is national parks. A lot of wide open space. I think that things like this have contributed to it. They created such a legend or a lore
To keep people out of it.
that scared white people enough, and I think that Dogman has a little credibility. I mean, he's been seen more than Bigfoot, and Bigfoot is the poster child of Cryptic.
I was actually disappointed that the only thing that I found was this wild man, because the last sighting was over 20 years ago, and that was the one that the man and his cousin were out hiking and ran into it.
And they
That's
never
a
really
long time
actually
ago. Yeah, and they
never.
didn't get a full look to see what exactly it was that they were looking at.
Yeah, these are. There was encounter stories right up until like 2-3 weeks ago, where people have seen the Dogman. It's still being reported every day that there is something in northern Lower Michigan walking around in the woods that looks like a half dog, half dude. My only problem with all cryptids is now with the Dogman, because there is a little spirituality and it is legend, that it's possible that it is a paranormal entity, or like a something that was put out to scare people on purpose. If it is a physical being and some part human, where's the dead bodies of the dead? People go into Michigan woods all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't we run across at least a carcass or a burial site?
You think something?
Something? I mean, they have, unless they are supernatural and don't die.
Right. I guess that could be.
And
I'm open to the possibilities just because there's plenty of space.
like I said, with cryptids, I think I want them to be real. I want there to be something more weird and scary than human beings on this planet.
Right.
So like the whole scientific thing is, if it's a living, breathing being, it has to die, which means there would be something in fossil there would be something in it's showing that they found at least bones or a carcass or something of a dead, and they have. They do get every once in a while like patches of fur on fences and stuff like that where they're reported seeing. Most of that stuff comes back as something, an animal that's native to the area, like brown bear.
See, I don't know what all animals are native around here or in Michigan. Because, we have panthers around here, and I didn't even know.
Michigan, I mean, there's cougars, there's wild cats here, there's bears, there's wolverines, there's foxes, there's coyotes, there's wolves. We have predators here. And some of the pictures that are supposed to be like Dogman proof pictures, it kind of looks like a big ass coyote.
Yeah,
kind of. Or a big ass cougar. Something that is out of proportionate for its size, but still native to Michigan. So
maybe something like crossbred. And there's some weird creature out there.
But the on two legs thing, that's the thing that gets me, is wolves don't walk on two legs.
Yeah.
Coyotes don't walk on two legs. Cougars
they don't
walk
but they can. I seen a video just the other day of a house dog, that was taught. I think he was missing a leg or a couple legs or something. I can't remember. But he walked on his two legs. It was really creepy because it looked like he was acting like a human. So
I would say that I find it more likely that the Michigan Dogman has credibility. Like I said, with all cryptids, I kind of just want it to be real. I want there to be something creepy lurking in the Michigan woods, scaring the hell out of people.
Or maybe
Not
it's
her.
just Bigfoot and they're misreading it. Of course, the wild man, they said his eyes were like small red eyes. What
Probably just.
animal has that kind of? I don't know. I kind of think that they're probably all just Bigfoot.
I'm gonna put a great big question mark next to the dog because, like I said, I didn't see enough proof there. I'm not gonna ever sit down and tell people that they didn't see nothing because I do believe that they did see something they can't explain.
Right. Even if it isn't the dog man, it could be something else.
Something. Michigan is one of those places that even in when there's nothing going on, it's still kind of creepy. I've been creeped out on a beach before because Michigan just has that vibe that the entire state has experienced so much, I don't know, negativity as a whole that I think that a lot of that stays and that may manifest in people's minds like this. You know, they may be projecting just energy that they're picking up in the area.
Around my mom's house, me and my husband when we came up there one year. It was just me and him, and we had our dog with us, a beagle. We were lost, so we were kind of like stopped on one of the back roads, trying to get directions, I guess, to where the fuck we were, because we were so lost, and it was pitch black. Now, there were some houses, you know how it is out in the country area, but there's far and few between, and the rest is like just woods. And we were sitting there, and the dog just started growling, and we're like, what the hell? Because we didn't see anything or hear anything. And then the dog's hair stood up, so he was sensing something, and I don't know what it was. But we were like, we weren't going to wait around and find out. We left. We're like, okay, bye.
I think about this a lot. Michigan does have a very bloody history. I mean, if you think about just us becoming a state and just taking over the state, we were ripping lands and sometimes spiritual places away from the Native Americans. Just by our white people influence, it was a pretty bloody time. I mean, just the industry here with the fur trading and the logging. There's an entire town in Michigan, Saginaw. Pretty much the entire town is home because of just all the negative things that have happened in that place surrounded by the logging community. That's all through Michigan history, no matter where you are. And then you've got in the thumb area, Detroit's never had a good reputation and has always had this creating negativity throughout the state. That's where in Michigan we get kind of a bad reputation is just from that one city alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I think that it may be a response to negative energy that's just residual, and that's how it manifests is, or how people perceive it manifested is something dark that doesn't look human but kind of does, lurking in the woods. They may not actually have a physical form. That's why you don't find anything dead or no fur, but it still has the.
Right, maybe it's ghost-like, where you can't see it.
It could very well be the one and only trip that I've taken to Mackinac Island. Another thought I had is I've had the shit scared out of me by normal animals in Michigan. Because
right.
like I've opened the door, turned, and there's a deer staring at me, and that freaked me out. So I guess I can imagine maybe if a wolf was startled and you were startled and it came up on its front legs and just took off, maybe that you could have scared each other, but I don't know. So the skeptic in me that says, if they haven't found anything dead, then it's probably not real. But the paranormal enthusiast inside's like, well, maybe it doesn't have a body. Maybe it can't die. And maybe this is even something the Native Americans have conjured to keep white people out of what they would protect.
This wild man, I bet you they literally tortured a person. That would not surprise me. If it was really a guy, let's say, who maybe just hadn't had a haircut in a while, maybe he was, homeless or living, maybe he chose to live in the woods. Who knows? It was probably a person, and then they
Back then, he just
escaped.
wants to snatch bitches up. He only wants
Right?
dogs and women. Maybe he just wants a companion. That's why
I
it's dogs.
I thought that was the weirdest thing. I was like, that's why I still was like, okay, I'm still going to talk about it just for that alone. That they only go after
Or,
dogs and women.
or there's also a cultural aspect that you can think of it too, of it being a urban legends.
Yeah.
Maybe, Southerners aren't exactly known for liking women to have equal right.
Right.
Maybe that was a way in that time to keep women in the house.
Could have been.
Make up an urban legend that there's some scary dude in the woods that's going to snatch you up and carry you
That
off,
would have
and you
worked
got
really
okay.
easily, especially way back then. Oh my gosh. Because that was a long time ago.
Yeah,
1800s.
yeah, and back then, 1800s, we're talking Civil War time, so that definitely the South wasn't all for
Yeah.
equal rights.
And making up stuff to scare them women.
Well, we do the same thing in the North. And that's another thing that my mom said. She thought the story was just to keep her in the house because
Hmm.
she was a kid. You make up something scary in the woods that isn't something that you can defend yourself against
Yeah, to keep
to
your kids
create
out
a
of
fear
it.
to keep you out of it. So that's what she always thought until I started talking to her about what I'd researched. And she was like, that would explain the reaction that your great grandpa had, that if he really did believe that there was a werewolf in the woods, that would have made more sense than him being scared of that as opposed to a bear, because you can shoot a bear,
Well, I mean,
but
you
who
could
knows?
shoot a werewolf too.
But unless it's a silver bullet, you ain't going nowhere if you believe Hollywood.
That's true. That makes me think of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I don't know why it made me think of vampire because it's a werewolf, but yeah, so many possibilities.
Why cryptids are hard is there's no actual
And
tangible
if they
proof.
are intelligent, like a lot of people say, they know what to not do to not be seen. Like if
The,
they don't want to be found, they're not going to be found.
the personal experience that creeped me out was hearing something psychically, that it interacted not by talking,
Yeah,
but
that's
by,
scary. That's really scary right there.
which would lean a little bit more into maybe this is a conjured spirit,
Yeah.
that if it can communicate psychically, maybe the natives in that area. I really do believe that they created this to sick it on white people to keep them out of their places. Which I don't
That
blame them.
sounds very believable.
I don't blame them. I do the same thing. If I had the ability and the mystic understanding to be able to conjure something like that to protect my people, absolutely I would do it. And it seems to still be working. Or northern lower Michigan and the UP is still very untouched, where it's all national forest. You can't build on it. You have
Hmm.
to leave it as it is. And there's the Glacier National Parks up north. I would say good on you. This is what this really is. That they conjured a spirit to keep white people out of their shit, because you ain't gonna be seeing me, by myself hanging out in northern Michigan
Heck
woods.
no.
I
Even
mean,
though
even
this doesn't have very anything at all on this wild man thing, it's gonna make me question things a lot harder if I'm in the woods again. I'm like, wait, hold up. I remember reading this about this thing.
I would love to, you know, you and I have talked a lot about what my dream retirement is building out a bus and making it something that I could go in the woods and not have to be plugged in and have all of my human creature comforts in, and from a safety of a place record what I see in the middle of woods, or You know,
That would be
even on,
interesting, though. I like to
it,
see what people catch on their trail cams.
yeah, and that's another thing. Trail cams are big in Michigan. Like I said, this is a big outdoor hunting state where, opening day is almost a national holiday here.
Hmm.
So trail cams are being used with more technology in the woods. Why isn't there better footage? Why isn't there?
Yeah, that always boggles my mind when I think about anything in the woods like that. Even not just even the cryptids, even when people say like a ghost, any kind of being, a ghostly being or a witch. Some people say witch in the woods, like the Bell Witch. With so many people having the trail cams, I still have yet to see any really good footage, which kind of sucks. I've seen
But if
creepy stuff though, I'm not gonna lie. I've seen some creepy stuff on some.
you would think that people in those areas there, I mean, there's hunting camps pay to go and have certain sections of the woods to where they've bought time to be there to hunt, and I would assume that they're setting up trail cams. I mean, most of them are battery operated, so they would be able to do
Right.
that without being able to plug in. But there's also I guess the thought that if these things are human in nature, that they would know that that's something they're trying to catch them on and stay
Yeah,
away
so
from.
like if they're intelligent, they know to don't go near it. Or you'll see them move, but like you don't see what moves it. So obviously it's probably some kind of animal, but you wouldn't be able to tell because they
Well,
keep out of the frame.
a raccoon would have the dexterity to move a camera. They have what look like fingers,
Yeah, that's true. And they
and
can climb trees too, can't they?
yeah, they live in trees.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
So they can most definitely climb a pole that they have a camera attached to and get up there and mess with it. So yeah, until there's one, a dog man like tapping on the lens, I'm not gonna 100% buy it. Like, what are you?
Yeah, that's up in the air for me. And the wild man, I just thought that was a funny little, because
It,
somebody
it's
claims they see
interesting.
something, but like I said, like no encounters, like you hear of other things. So I don't know. Probably just a man. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and let us know in the comments below what you think about these cryptids, real or fake. Until next time, bye!
Bye.